Hi, good evening. How's everybody? Good. So, the topic tonight is autoimmune disease. And I think what I'm going to do is just give you a recent case that we had from someone. If you could turn off your phones, please, everybody, right now.
There's a troublemaker there.
I thought I turned it off.
Birds. Thank you. Good. So, 63-year-old female. She's got a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis for 15 years. She is on prednisone and Plaquenil, and her sedimentation rate is 60.
A little high.
Little high, should be less than 15. It's a marker for inflammation. Okay? And rheumatoid arthritis is a disease where the immune system actually attacks the synovial, the surrounding of the joints, and the joints themselves. She had an ANA, which is called anti-nuclear antibody, which was positive, and a rheumatoid factor, which was positive. So this defines the disease. So she's on quite a bit of medicine. She's worse, more pain, more disability. The doctor's next drug is what?
Cortisone?
A biologic. She's already on prednisone, so she's already on cortisone. So she's going to take Humira or Enbrel or one of these drugs, which if you listen to the advertisement on TV, in real fast at the end, it says, gives you cancer, tuberculosis, kills your immune system, and very popular drugs though. They sell in the many billions. Okay? Now they can work for people to cause their symptoms to go away. They do not do anything for the underlying disease process at all, and they can hurt you, or while you're on those drugs, you can become very sick. So she came to see me because she wanted another opinion. Is there anything else that could be done to help her? And this is kind of a typical autoimmune patient. Now, if you look at the incidence of diseases, the thing that kills more people in this country than anything is heart disease. The second is cancer. The third is doctors giving people medicine that kills them. And autoimmune disease really is next, and it's increasing like mad. So something about our lifestyle and our living and what we eat and what we are exposed to seems to have really ramped up this whole thing of autoimmune disease. So rheumatoid arthritis is a very typical one. It's a whole subspecialty in medicine. A rheumatologist deals with rheumatic disease. Sometimes it affects the skin, like with psoriasis or with Sjogren's. It can attack the saliva glands or the tear ducts, so people have dry eyes, or they have dry mouths, or they have rashes or big things on their skin. It can affect their joints. With lupus, which is another prominent one, it can affect their kidneys and actually wreck their kidneys so that they have to get kidney transplants. So this is a serious thing. It's very prevalent. And then I just want to take you back to sort of, so the target, if you talk to a rheumatologist, it is an immune system gone bad. It's an immune system which is supposed to be protecting you, but now it's attacking you. So on every cell in your body, there is a marker. There is a protein marker, which makes you you. And only you, unless you have an identical twin, has that marker. That's why if you try to give somebody else's blood, or especially if you try to put another person's organ in you, your immune system will attack that organ because it's not you. And so in people who get transplants, they have to take medication which suppresses their own immune system so that they don't kill the kidney or the liver or whatever they got transplanted. When someone has autoimmune disease, what has happened is that the immune system cells, which are looking around all the time for foreign proteins, that is proteins that aren't you, is making a mistake because it's forgotten what you look like. and it thinks that the marker on your cell is an enemy rather than you. So it's supposed to be self protects self and attacks non-self. It's an anatomical thing. It's actually a protein marker that is on the surface of the cell, of all the cells. Hashimoto's thyroiditis is another very common autoimmune disease where the immune system is actually attacking the thyroid gland. Sometimes it can produce a thyroid that's way overactive. Sometimes it produces a thyroid that's way underactive, but the thyroid's being attacked and the gland becomes inflamed. There's markers in the blood which you can measure, which are antibodies. These are particles that the immune system makes that are designed to attack and kill a cell, or at least injure a cell. And so in Hashimoto's you see these things, okay? Now, so this is a typical case. Now, if you talk to a rheumatologist, the problem is an abnormal immune system that's attacking the body. But the wonderment about, well, this person didn't have this disease for 40 years, 50 years, and now she's got it. So to call this a genetic disease would be really loose. Now, maybe in the family somebody had arthritis, but she didn't have it for 50 years. So something had to happen to cause that to be that way. Something had to turn on. And so what I want to talk about tonight is how this process gets going and what happens with it. About 300 years before the birth of Christ, a doctor named Hippocrates was living in Greece, and he was pretty smart. And one of his basic laws was that all disease starts in the gut. Gut. He said colon, but let's just take it as gut. Okay? And this one does too. Okay? So, if we look at the intestine, this is the intestinal wall. It is 1 cell thick. So the contents in the small intestine are only separated from your bloodstream, let's call this blood vessel, by really 1 cell. Now that cell is susceptible to things. Every time you have a non-organic product that's got glyphosate on it, it's going to cause an injury to these cells. Every time you take a pharmaceutical drug, it's going to cause injury to these cells. If your hot sauce is too hot, it's going to cause injury to these cells. Okay? They're susceptible. It burns. Alcohol. Lots of things that we ingest can damage these cells. It's 1 cell. You can't see 1 cell. If you held a cell on the tip of your finger, you can't see it. You need a microscope. You've got to magnify it about 600-700 times to really be able to look at it. Okay? So they're very small. And on these cells, there's a very complicated structure so that when the food comes through, the food can get absorbed and it can be passed through into the intestine. Now let's say that someone has a piece of chicken. And that chicken is a protein. So if we took 1 muscle fiber and we magnified that by like hundreds of thousands, we would see that the muscle fiber is made up of smaller units called what? Amino acids. Okay? So amino acid. Amino in Greek means nitrogen. Acid means it's got some carbons and hydrogens on it. There's 22 of them in nature that our body uses. It's like an alphabet. So in English, there's 26 letters. You can make, 500,000-600,000 words in the English language, something like that. Because you can put the letters together in different and then they spell different words. The amino acid alphabet has 22 amino acids, which are the letters, and you can put them together in different combinations, you can make different proteins. The simplest word in English, there's a couple of them, have one letter, right? I, A, okay? One letter. The simplest protein in the body is thyroid hormone. It's got one amino acid, okay? The amino acid is called tyrosine. You put 3 iodines on it, and you have thyroid hormone. So that's the simplest one. If you take muscle protein, chicken muscle, beef muscle, human muscle, it's got 6,100 amino acids per one fiber. If you think of this for a minute, the whole way the body works and the whole structure of it is completely impossible. Can you imagine in your body you have like 100 trillion cells, every one of which is making proteins day and night. And one protein in the body, one protein, one muscle fiber, has 6,100 of these in a very specific order. It has to be right. A red one, a blue one, a green one, a yellow one, it's got to be right. If the thing isn't right, it's not the protein and it doesn't work. So the body has to take in the food, digest it, break it down into individual amino acids. They can enter through the cell, go into the capillary, and then go to the muscle, and then the muscle says, okay, here's a yellow one, next is a green one, next is a yellow one. Oh, we're a little short on blue ones. Okay, that muscle's not getting made that day. Why are you sore for days after you work out? Because the thing didn't get repaired. You're short on amino acids and maybe other stuff to be able to put the thing together so it doesn't get put together. So the muscle that you did pull-ups today, it didn't get fixed. Well, it didn't get fixed because the body couldn't fix it. We know that if you supply enough amino acids on a daily basis, it will fix it. It fixes it actually pretty fast. So the chicken thing gets broken down into 6,100 amino acids. They are taken in by these intestinal cells. They go into the blood, they go to the muscle cells or the brain or whatever's got to be made that day, and they make them. And that's how it's supposed to work. Now, let's say that the digestion is incomplete. You're missing some digestive enzymes. And this chicken protein, which is supposed to get broken down into individual amino acids, is still stuck with 5 of them. It's not completely digested. And if this thing goes to this cell, it will reject it. It won't take it in. But if this guy just had some nice non-organic something, anything, peaches, apples, asparagus, bread, and that bread has glyphosate saturated in it when he ate it, and that glyphosate came down here, that glyphosate breaks down the glue that holds these cells tight. Because the stuff's not supposed to go in between, it's supposed to go through. And if the barrier's broken down and the connection is loose, this protein is called zonulin. It holds these things together and it keeps the barrier, because otherwise this guy can slip through. Now, about 60 or 70% of the immune system actually sits right here, around the small intestine. And this is called GALT, gut-associated lymphoid tissue. Now, why is so much of the immune system here? Because this is the biggest place stuff can get into you that shouldn't get into you. So the major protection is there. And this gut-associated lymphoid tissue is on the lookout for foreign proteins. So if we were cannibals, this probably wouldn't be a problem because it's all our protein anyway, and we're close enough with each other that it probably wouldn't make such a fuss. But cows and chickens and soybeans and whatever the proteins are that you're eating, they are foreign proteins, and the immune system identifies them as foreign, and it makes an attack particle. Because that foreign protein could be a virus or a bacteria or a fungus or a parasite, and we don't want those things getting through into us. So the immune system is on alert to be able to handle those things. Now, it makes what's called an antibody. And it is a protein. And it is a protein which latches on to that foreign protein and triggers your immune system to go eat all that stuff up, to get it, because it's not supposed to be in there. Now, if there is a lot of leakages, you have a lot of these things coming through. And this gut-associated lymphoid tissue gets upset and it ramps everything up. I saw somebody today, she's got so much sensitivity to so many things that she can't eat hardly anything because the gut is so porous that things come through, another attack, then it comes through again, another attack. And what happens is you get a buildup of these antibodies, and they don't just stay here, they go into the bloodstream too. And you can imagine, let's say that we're in here and there's a lot of bad guys on the outside that are coming over the walls to get us, okay? And we've all got a gun. And there's some of our guys are near the wall, but basically we're shoot and then look. Because if they get in, we're all done for. Some people are going to shoot our guys because they moved, right? Or it looked like they were coming through, right? It's a mistake. It's friendly fire. Well, you get all these antibodies. You know, the infidels are coming over the walls. Go, shoot everything that moves. And these antibodies get into the bloodstream. And now they're going looking for bad guys. And it turns out that cow proteins and beef and chicken proteins and pork proteins and nut proteins are close enough to our tissue that these antibodies make a mistake and think, oh, the cartilage in the joint or the synovial membrane in the joint, that looks a lot like, and the guy had chicken soup 3 nights before and there was some cartilage proteins in there. You know, everybody's taking collagen today. It's going to produce more autoimmune disease. Because it's collagen, it's very close to our collagen, and people are eating this stuff, and then the collagen is going to go across, and then the thing's going to make against collagen. 30% of all our tissues are collagen, of our own structural tissues. So here we go, and now in one person's body, it's going to attack the thyroid. In another person's body, it might attack the pancreas. In another person's body, it's going to attack the joints, okay? Or the brain. A lot of people who have problems with thinking and computations and sleep and behavior and mood and depression, which is like rampant epidemic today, there is an autoimmune attack going on in their brain by their own immune system that is attacking these neurons, and these neurons, when they're attacked, they don't act right. They don't think straight. However, whatever they do, I don't know what they do, but they don't, it doesn't work. You know, you get these symptoms. And if it affects the mitochondria in the cells, you get cells that can't generate energy. Because the energy generation systems, they're under attack too. And so the profile of the symptoms and the conditions are very wide, but basically the bottom line is this is what's going on. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, so if we, hang on. So if this is our model versus a model of just suppress the immune system with the strongest drugs possible to give the guy relief, okay? That's what the rheumatologist is saying.
Right.
Do whatever it takes to keep the immune system down so that these people are suffering from this. This isn't like it's a nothing thing. They really do suffer from it. So the intention of the doctor to relieve suffering is correct. And maybe in an emergency to get things settled down, if it's just really wild out of control, you might have to do some of these things. I'm not anti-modern medicine, but only as an emergency until you figure out, okay, you know, here's what's going on. Can we get this changed so that we can get it to work? Okay, to go back to the way it was before it actually happened. So I see this person, she comes in, and I do some tests on her looking for things like what is going on in her gut that's making it be leaky that is causing this to happen. And I find that she's got a couple of parasites and some funguses and some bad bacteria, and that her gut is leaking, and that she's making an abnormal autoimmune response in her body. So I go after her gut with the right foods that I want her to eat, and to give her things that will heal this up so it stops leaking. So now I don't have the things coming in constantly. These antibodies have a life in the body of usually around 4 to 6, maybe 8 months. If the body is not producing new ones, these will wear out over this time period, and they will go down and go away. So in this woman, she had this. She also had Lyme disease. Now Lyme disease, and there's a bunch of other kinds of infections that can do this. They can do it by attacking the gut, but they can also do it by setting up infection within the joints or within the tissues, which alter what the surface structure of the joint looks like, and you could get autoimmune reaction from that. Sometimes heavy metals do this as well. So there are other things that can do this, and usually we are looking at the same time to what are these various factors that are doing this, because if we can get these things to go down, this will heal. These antibodies over time will go away. And with what happened with her, she started to get better and better and better. She was able to wean off of her prednisone, wean off of her Plaquenil. She was also on methotrexate, which is it's a chemotherapy drug, but it's an immune suppressive drug. She was able to wean off that, and she started to feel really much better. And then after about 6 or 7 months, she's like, she's very spry. She's like, I'm good. I'm dancing again. I'm doing great. I'm off the medication. We repeated the tests that she came in with. Okay? So we did a sedimentation rate. It was 60. It's way, way too high. 15 is probably top normal. Okay?
What's that word? Sedimentation.
Sedimentation rate. It's a measure of how fast blood falls when you just put a column of blood in a test tube. And they just set the timer and they do it for, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes. I forgot how long. And the faster the blood falls, the more inflamed it is. So the blood should fall at a rate of maybe whatever it is, but if you have an autoimmune disease or if you have an inflammatory disease, it tends to fall faster. So hers was 60, it went to 15. Okay? The anti-nuclear antibody, so it's an antibody, right? Anti-nuclear. So these are antibodies that attack the nucleus, the chromosomes in the cells. And this is how lupus is diagnosed. It went negative. For rheumatoid factor, which is it's an antibody that attacks joint surfaces. It went negative. Now she doesn't have a diagnosis anymore of rheumatoid arthritis because she doesn't have rheumatoid arthritis anymore. That is a big wastebasket. It isn't a specific thing that you could actually treat to make it go away. There was a whole combination of things. And when that happens now, she feels great. So she said, do I need to go back to my rheumatologist anymore? And I said, if you would, just one more time.
Yeah.
Okay? I wanted to see what you look like. And you bring the lab work with you and show him the lab work. And you can say to him from me, if he has any patients he needs some help with, just send them over. Okay?
Quick question.
Yes.
For cases like that, do you recommend patients autoimmune paleo diet, or what kind of diet do you recommend?
It depends. If they have a lot of neurological stuff, I usually put them on a ketogenic diet.
Oh.
because it seems to be very much anti-inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
An autoimmune diet, a paleo diet without nightshades, a plant paradox diet. You know, some people have, you know, they know they can't eat such and such and they do it, but we want it to be a diet which is not gonna be, no processed foods at all, no chemicalized foods. It should be real foods. And
So
I'm
you
not
think-
sure that, and so we sort of try this, and just see how they go with it.
I noticed you
What's
said,
that?
oh, sorry.
You said lupus, does that include lupus anticoagulant?
Yeah, because it's just another antibody against another normal body thing. So all, you know, now there are panels, the rheumatologists have panels of anti this, anti that, anti this, anti that. And then they try to sort of get like, oh, it's mostly against this or it's mostly against that, as the, try to be able to name a specific disease. But basically this reaction can occur with any tissue in the body, and so it isn't really specific.
Would you talk about glyphosate?
Glyphosate? Okay, so glyphosate is Roundup. Roundup is the most used herbicide in the world. Our planet has been saturated with glyphosate, billions of tons, okay? 3/4 of the rainwater samples on planet Earth are positive for glyphosate. Your water, if you're not filtering it, has glyphosate in it, okay? I have measured probably close to 1,000 patients for glyphosate in their urine. I have never seen a negative. And a lot of the people I see are careful. They're eating organic. They've been maybe organic for 10, 15 years. But their urine has lots of glyphosate in it. Now, glyphosate is both an antibiotic. It breaks down the membrane between the cells in the intestine. It is a carcinogen. A case was just one in California of a gardener who was sprayed glyphosate, and the World Health Organization said glyphosate is a carcinogen, or most likely a carcinogen. And the companies, I think, sponsored hundreds of studies saying, oh no, it's safe, it's good. But Monsanto lost the case. So, and I think there's 300 or 400 cases now pending for the same thing.
What is
The other problem with glyphosate is that there is so much put onto the soil that it's killing the biome in the soil, which is how we live. If there aren't bacteria in the soil to break down organic matter into minerals so that plants can then absorb those minerals. You know, plants get leaky membranes from glyphosate too, just like we get leaky membranes. This is a huge, huge planetary problem. There are many doctors who feel this is at the bottom of the epidemics we're in the middle of, which is autism and cancer and autoimmune disease, that it really starts with that. If you look at a map of the United States of glyphosate levels 30 and 40 years ago, there was very little of it being used. Now, it's just massive all over the place. GLYPHOSATE.
And the test is just glyphosate in urine, right?
It's a urine test for glyphosate. We do a urine test for environmental toxins, and that one is part of the test. We look for plastics, we look for petrochemicals,
And-
things like that.
And do you also do SpectraCell micronutrient test? I mean, do you have a contract with that company? Do you do that?
Would you do what now?
SpectraCell micronutrient.
I don't like SpectraCell. I don't
You
think the
don't?
test
Why?
is any good.
Why?
I think the Genova ion panel is much, much better.
Why it is better? Because it is more.
It gets
things?
results. The SpectraCell, I get the results, and it doesn't seem to match up with what's wrong with the
Oh,
patient.
really? I
You
didn't
mentioned
know.
nuts.
Okay.
You mentioned nuts with chicken, pork, and beef. That's not being good. It recognizes.
No, not that
You
it's
said
gonna be
nuts.
good.
You said nuts are okay. It recognizes so nuts are okay to eat.
No. It's what is your body gonna do with it? If you have a leaky membrane, the nut proteins can come through too. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
dependent on what you eat, not necessarily the food.
So
I don't
nuts
think I don't think vegetarians or vegans are any less susceptible to this than
maybe I understood.
carnivores.
Excuse me, do you need to use a reverse osmosis
You should.
system?
No.
Your water get reverse osmosis, and you need either a whole house filtration system in your house, or at least you need to buy on Amazon for $30. You can buy filters that you can put on your shower. You absorb water when you shower or bathe, just like if you're drinking it. And this water and clear water, I think there's something like 500 measurable additives to it, okay? Besides the fluoride and the chloramines and the rest of the stuff that they sterilize it with. It is poisonous to us, so you have to take measures so that you can protect yourself from this stuff.
Does a Brita water filter remove the glyphosate?
It isn't good enough. I would get a reverse osmosis.
So if glyphosate is appearing in literally everybody's urine and it causes leaky gut, what do you do?
Well, you try to get as little glyphosate as you can by watching your water, by watching your food, and by taking things. There's a popular product now called Restore. Okay, Restore is a mineral product. Restore in the laboratory seals leaky gut membranes. So if you take a teaspoon of Restore 15, 20 minutes before you eat, I'm giving him a commercial here. That it will help seal up your leaky gut. Just while we're on the subject, this guy, Dr. Zach Bush, is a friend, and he has started a movement called Farmer's Footprint, farmersfootprint.com. He is trying to start a movement because he's been studying leaky membranes and glyphosate. Now, this leaky membrane isn't just in the gut. You got a leaky membrane in your brain. Have you ever walked into like Bed Bath & Beyond is one where the fume level is like, okay? And you walk in there, ideally, if you had a really good sealed up brain, you know, like you didn't have leaky membranes in your brain, you wouldn't go spacey or get like angry or weird or whatever happens when you go in there because you'd be protected. But the membranes are damaged. They're damaged and they leak. So the lung membranes leak, and the kidney membranes leak, and the brain membranes leak. So we gotta work on our membranes. Okay, wait. She's been.
So once you heal the leaky gut, and I'm hoping that the other
It's ongoing. It's like it's not like, oh, I did it and now I'm done.
Well, so I have Hashimoto's.
Yes.
Springer has told me my gut is healed.
Yes.
I don't know if that means my brain membrane is healed. Like, do you have to do, I mean, there's so many tests that you could do for autoimmune at this point, and they sort of tumble. So so obviously you have to keep the gut healed, and then can you not go back to eating glyphosate, but.
No, you should never eat glyphosate if you can help it.
But like, can I go back to eating gluten?
No, because
Never.
here's the other thing.
Okay.
Look, 25 years ago, there wasn't anybody, there were celiacs who were genetically unable to tolerate gluten, okay? And they'd eat gluten and they'd have symptoms, whatever they are, okay? When my wife and I were in college and when I was in medical school, our project every weekend was that we would make bread together. We would go to the Whole Foods store and we would buy organic wheat and we would grind it up and we would make 2 loaves of bread. And I would eat one during the week and she would eat one during the week. And I loved bread, okay? Now, I can't eat bread now. Nobody can eat bread. 98% of the people we test are gluten sensitive. They're not celiacs, they're gluten sensitive. Now what happened? Glyphosate is not only used, so the whole genetically modified chemistry was designed by Monsanto so that you could get a plant that would tolerate glyphosate. See, if you put glyphosate on a regular healthy plant, it will kill it. It's a weed killer. So people go spray glyphosate on their lawn and in between the cracks in their sidewalk to kill the weeds. And weed is a weed, and it will kill weed. So they genetically modified plants, corn, soybeans, wheat, all these different products, so that they would be able to handle the pesticide and it wouldn't kill them. That way they could sell the seeds and they could sell the glyphosate as a pair, and they could, then the wheat would grow, it wouldn't kill it, and then when the wheat is supposed to be harvested, what happens is, the normal farmers, they would cut it and roll it up into these big balls and they'd let it dry in the fields. Because you can't package it wet, it'll mold, it'll rot. What they found is that glyphosate is also a desiccant, which means it'll dry plants out. So not only does the plant get it when it's growing, is when it's done, they put more on there and it dries it out faster. And then, so you start eating wheat with glyphosate, you're gonna get a leaky gut, you're gonna form allergies to wheat, you're gonna form antibodies to wheat, and hardly anybody can eat wheat. I mean, I was in Italy last year. You can get gluten-free pasta and pizza in Italy because it's the problem there too.
Yeah.
Okay, it isn't the plant. Wheat's been a staff of life since the Bible, or probably before.
So I'm happy to give up gluten, but I'm really sad to give up dairy. Like, so if you take Restore, if you continue to take Restore,
Some people can handle dairy. Some people, but it's got to be good dairy.
right?
Okay,
Yeah, I'm happy.
because the cows are hormones, antibiotics, growth hormone.
Right.
You know,
Good stuff.
so it's tough to get this stuff.
What about A2 milk?
Well, A2 milk has a better antigen profile, and I think it's just because we haven't had much in this country,
Yeah.
and so people aren't so sensitized to it. You know, I think on all these things, once you're doing really well, so you restrict the diet, you fix your gut, you handle your Lyme disease or whatever else is going on with you, your heavy metals, your chemicals and pesticides. So now you're doing well, your brain is clear, you have good energy, you sleep good, you know, you're productive, you can exercise. Then if you want to see, okay, now can I have some wheat? So I'll tell you, last year, when I was in Italy, and my diet's really pretty darn good, okay? And I'm really careful with gluten and most grains. So I'm in Italy, I'm in a meeting, and we're at a banquet, and they serve, some beautiful looking pasta, okay? And I'm gonna go, okay, I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
So I try it, and I went to bed that night, and I think it went okay, right? So the next day, I'm gonna try it one more time. So then I had some more the next day, okay? And I went to bed okay. And then the next morning, the third morning, I woke up. My joints hurt, my hands hurt to close them, my belly was bloated. It was like, okay, it got me, okay? Took 10 days. 10 days till my hands didn't hurt, and I could get my rings off, and my belly to calm down. The healing process in the gut is probably around 10 days. So if you only on Sundays, you're gonna have a cheat day on Sunday, you're just gonna have bread on Sundays, it's not finished healing yet, most likely. By the next Sunday, it's just gonna go whack, whack. Now, some people, see, and this is a hard experiment to do when you're not sort of cleaned up. Because the body goes into apathy over this whole thing and it just gives up. It says, no matter how much I protest, this person isn't gonna listen to me and they're just gonna keep this stuff coming. But if you clean up, then you can see, oh, that didn't go so well. So, okay, don't do that, okay? Maybe you have a bit of A2 cheese and it's okay, and maybe you could do it for a while. And so I'm happy with people doing things if it's good, wholesome food, and they may be able to do it either back to eating it or in some kind of a moderation. And, but they gotta watch it. Because a lot of the diseases that people are suffering from really start with their diet and their gut and what's around their environment. Yeah.
Do you think CBD oil or alkaline water can help?
I don't like alkaline water because it's foreign. I have a couple of family members that were in the Kangen business, which is the machine from, I think, Japan or Korea that sells alkaline water, and they're supposedly curing people with alkaline water. The studies on it aren't very good. My brother-in-law was a dealer and he used to drink lots of it. He got stomach cancer. I had a number of patients that were having, I noticed that they were having real high levels of manganese in their heavy metal tests. And I inquired about what their habits were, and they were all heavily drinking Kangen water. The electrode in the Kangen water machine there's manganese in there, and it was coming into the water, and they were drinking it, and you can get manganese toxic. So I don't like it. I think reverse osmosis is the best water that you can drink, and occasionally if you have to have a bottle of water, have a bottle of water. But these bottled waters they're in plastic, and you don't know where it's been in plastic.
Is
there a BPA scare with that stuff on the plastic, or BPA that?
Well, it depends on the plastic, sure. These things are, when we measure environmental toxins on people, we find that many people have plastic residues. They have, they have lots of chemical residues, and it's coming in either through their water or whatever their exposure is, yeah.
What's your opinion on the whole food, plant-based, food diet, with also eliminating sugar, non-dairy, and non-eggs?
Well, I don't think it's a very good
Organic,
diet.
non-GMO.
I don't think it's a very good diet. I think we are omnivores, okay? The history of human race on this planet is not vegetarian and it's not vegan. There's no long-term vegan or vegetarian populations, there just aren't any. So if you go back, there's a really good book, if you want a fun kind of book. It's called Sapiens. It was a New York Times bestseller. It's Sapiens, like Homo sapiens. So Sapiens, that's our species, that's our genus and as a body. And about 2.5 million years ago, the first Homo sapiens, or the first species like us, they were upright people that were walking on their legs, appeared on Earth. And they were hunter-gatherers. That's what they did. They ate what they could find. They roamed in family clans and they ate what they could find. Okay? Now, a lot of the history of Earth has been Ice Age. There aren't many tomatoes growing during the Ice Age, or peaches, or green peppers. They were eating animal foods, whether it's fish or squirrels or deer. And that is what it works for us. Now, in times when there's not, people can eat. So I suggest fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, meat, fish, eggs. These are all good things.
Collagen if you have a good gut?
I think, here's the problem with collagen, okay? This is a market, this is like whey protein, okay? You know how whey protein got started? Whey protein is the liquid, when you make cheese, the casein, the milk has two proteins. One is whey and the other one is casein. So cheese is casein, okay? And when you make cheese, there is a liquid left over. And it used to be thrown away. Somebody got a bright idea, well, what's in this? Well, it's protein. Okay, let's market it, okay? How do we get it going? Well, we hire a bunch of scientists to show that whey protein is really good. The American College of Nutrition started to support the whey protein industry, okay? So they organized a group of scientists, they gave them a whole bunch of money, they said, do research on this, show that whey protein is really good, okay? And that's how it got started, okay? Now, collagen, it's doing the same thing. Now, most of this collagen is from animals that aren't the animals you want to eat. It's their hoofs, it's their feathers, it's their ground up parts, okay? They're animals that ate GMO foods or pesticided foods. It's not, hurry up, okay. It's not screened for this, and so so that's one problem with collagen, okay? Now some of the collagens are supposedly from organic sources. Fine, that's better. The other thing about collagen is made up of 4 amino acids, mainly, none of which are essential amino acids. The essential amino acids are the ones that our body needs to make protein. You can't eat collagen and expect your body to take that collagen and make it into other proteins. It can't do it. It's missing. And there's no tryptophan in collagen, which is really important amino acid. It's an essential amino acid. I think the whole thing is kind of it's a Madison Avenue, very successful campaign to get everybody eating this stuff. If you take collagen as like all day long and measure how much of the collagen that you ate got turned into your own body protein, which that's really the measure of a good protein, it will be between 0 and very low. Because your body can't do it. If you eat a piece of meat, about 30% of it, 33% of it will be utilized to make your own protein. If you have an egg, okay, a whole egg, about 48% of the protein's in there. Your body can take it and it can make your own body protein. Yes?
Will L-glutamine help the leaky gut?
Sometimes L-glutamine it's food actually for the colon cells. It can be helpful. Yes?
Would you say that every frozen food product, frozen vegetables that are all over has gluten?
Unless they're organic, they most certainly do.
They don't say.
So, well, I mean, you have to get organic frozen vegetables if you're going to. Yeah.
You yeah, there are, the plastics that are in bottles, and I think in frozen vegetables contain phthalates.
Right.
How important is it to steer clear of those?
Try not to package your food in plastic. Don't use saran wrap, don't use plastic containers. Try to use glass or cording type stuff. And don't microwave in plastic. Don't microwave anyway, but if you have to microwave, don't microwave in plastic. Try not to eat things that have been packaged in plastics. We find tons of people with that, we have real high levels of styrene in this toxin panel. And styrene, you know, it's coffee cups, it's Starbucks, it's, you know, it's hot, it gets in there, and then you drink it, and then it gets in you.
What is 18 milk? Is it almond milk?
No, it's a cow milk, but it's, the cows in Southern Europe, I think the cows in Southern Europe have a different genetic profile than the Northern Europe ones and the ones in America. And so their milk is less likely to cause autoimmune things. I think some of it is because we just haven't been exposed to it. Steve?
Two questions. What do you think about the Berkey water filter system? And secondly, is there a reverse osmosis machine that you like in particular, or brand, or?
I think any filter's better than none. So Brita or Berkey is better than none. I think ideally, you can go to Costco and for a couple $100 you can buy a reverse osmosis machine. There's probably higher end ones, lower end ones.
But you recommend people putting minerals back in, because that's just
No, I
taking
don't.
out- But that's just taking out all your minerals.
You're
and then-
eating food, you get plenty of minerals.
But isn't the water, because it doesn't have any calcium in it, sucking the calcium out?
No, it doesn't do it. have some broccoli. Yeah, or
Is deionization the same as reverse osmosis?
no different.
Different, thank you.
Yeah.
Have you heard about peptide therapy for healing your gut?
Yes, peptides this is a new kind of, peptides have been underground they started in Russia to make their athletes the best in the world. Peptides are small chain proteins, okay? They might be 15 or 18 amino acids. They are communication molecules. So our bodies make them to send signals to different things to do things, okay? There's one particular peptide which is very good at healing up people who have gut stuff, whether it's colitis or Crohn's disease or things like that. It's actually available orally by prescription. It's called BPC 157. And so we are using peptides in our practice for various type things. And they can be very helpful. It's pricey, they're pricey, okay? They're pricey. All this stuff's pricey. But
Do you like whey protein?
I know, I don't like whey protein. It's not, see, whey protein, if you look at utilization, you know, like the collagen is practically 0, eggs are 48, whey protein is about 16. It's not very good. Most of the whey protein that you eat gets turned into sugars and carbohydrates.
How many eggs a day would you think? 4?
As many as you want.
Thank you, thank you.
But should they be cage-free?
What?
On the way, I thought there were things showing that it was much more highly utilized.
No, it's absorbed. It's absorbed. So you can get it in, but your body can't actually use it. It's got the wrong mix of amino acids. For humans, it's good for cows.
I got it.
If you could get breast milk, you drink all that you can, because that's made for us. It's just hard to get.
Thanks, Lori.
Protein powder is called Perfect Amino. I own the company, so, but it's the best one. You can buy it next door.
What do you think about again, with the CBD oil, how about the effects of stress on autoimmune?
Well, stress makes everything worse. Some people respond well to CBD, so we use it depending on the patient.
Okay.
So what's
How
the
am I doing?
bottom line?
Right, a couple more minutes.
What's the bottom line then on healing a leaky gut? Since we're getting glyphosate, it's really difficult to not get exposed to a lot of bad stuff and stress and all of that. But so what do?
Well, I think you have to optimize what you're eating, so be as organic as you can.
Yeah.
I think if you look at sort of a paleo type profile, you know, meat, fish, eggs, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. If you're super sensitive, you could go more sort of a low lectin. You know, if you read Plant Paradox. I don't think he's right about proteins at all. But some of these products, these, you know, the nightshade type products and the seeded foods that you eat, that you're eating, they can cause people distress. So I usually say when people are starting, okay, organic as you can, meat, fish, eggs, fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, avoid nightshade vegetables. So white potatoes, peppers, eggplants. Tomatoes, okay? Avoid legumes, okay? Because beans have lots of lectins. So avoid beans as a start, okay? And avoid dairy products as a start, and avoid all grains.
So the eggs that can go back.
And for most people, that works pretty good. And a lot of people come in with gut-related issues, and within about a month, they say, well, geez, I'm having a bowel movement every day, and my gut isn't bloated like it used to be, and my heartburn isn't there, and I actually feel better. And that would be like, great, stay with that, okay? Sometimes it needs to be
What's
changed.
bad about lectins? I don't know.
Well, lectins are proteins that are built-in irritants. See, the plant doesn't want you to take it before it's ready. And so it builds in stuff, so if the animal goes and eats that pear before it's ripe, he's gonna get a stomach ache. And the pear isn't ready to drop the seed, so the plant wants to propagate itself. So the lectins are reduced in ripe fruit in season, so then if he eats it, the bear eats it and goes to the next bush and drops his load, those seeds will then take hold, and then the plant did its job. So these are just built-in sort of protection things for the plant.
Do you recommend people continuing to take Restore?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so here, she's giving me the sign.
Yeah.
So, now, if you are interested in learning more about our practice, see the pretty blonde in the back?
Thank you.
I'll hang around for a few minutes if there's some questions. I hope this was some good information for you guys.
Yeah.
Not good?
Yeah.